Hi, my name is Sam Russell, and wanted to talk today about a really relevant issue lately, which is the existence of God and whether or not a supreme being created and or governs this universe. Personally, I don't find it likely that there's a God, that there's a person who created it. I feel like science, in a way, scientific discovery has made God obsolete. It's made him unnecessary, if anything. I mean, think about it. Think about food. Think about how we used to cook food, right? We used to take a fish, we used to stick a wooden stick through it and put it over a fire. And it got the job done, right? It cooked it. But nowadays, we don't need the wooden stick in the fire because we got a microwave. We got a conventional oven. We've got technology. We've got science. It's the same thing with God. We used to cook with fire. We used to say God, it created the universe. God is what makes the sun go around. God is what makes the sky blue. God does everything. Now we know, the reflection of light through oxygen molecules. We know that. We know, like that the sun is a fiery ball of gas and not simply God shining a flashlight on us. We haven't completely disproven God with science. I'm not going to argue that. That's ridiculous. But I will say that science is gradually chipping away at long-held beliefs in God. And if you want to be a cafeteria Christian about it and say that, oh, well, we're going to interpret this, which you haven't disproven yet literally, but we're going to take the stuff you have disproven and just take it symbolically, that's ridiculous. That's just stupid. You can't follow half of a religious dogma. That's not only is it hypocrisy, it's just, if you're going to believe something stupid and founded on nothing, then at least, go all in on it. Because God's not going to appreciate you reading half of the Bible, is he? And that's another thing, is the hypocrisy in the church, but I didn't even want to get into the whole church thing today. I just wanted to talk about God, really. And, if you're thinking about, you to make the decision, I'm going to believe in God. Good for you. I'm glad, you believe in God. That's great for you. But which God? Is it today's God? Is it the Christian God? Or is it the God from 200 years ago that the Aztecs believed in, who was just as powerful as the Christian God? Is it one or many or all of the Greek gods, the Roman gods? Who are you believing in? Because they all exist. Because in order for a God to exist, what do we need? We need someone to say that it exists. People have said that it exists, therefore they exist. So you have to kind of choose for yourself. Am I going to believe the really new stuff? The stuff that's, the Christian God? Or am I going to go back in time and maybe look at other things and believe in those gods? Because as far as I'm concerned, the Christian God, the Muslim God, they just haven't died yet. That's all that makes them more relevant than the others to you, is that they haven't died yet. If they cryogenically freeze you for 2,000 years, bring you, unthaw you in 2,000 years, and they're believing in some other God, and you're like, no, we got it right. They're going to be like, okay, that's great for you that you believe that, but, hopefully in 2,000 years people aren't still believing in God. That would kind of suck. It's such a hindrance to scientific discovery. That was profoundly important in the Newtonian age, in what could have been the greatest period of scientific discovery ever. Do you know how many geniuses were put to death because they didn't agree that God existed? Do you know how the Catholic Church, how much the Catholic Church has held back society, civilization, progression? It's ridiculous that something that terrible, that evil, could be allowed to even exist is beyond me, is beyond any intelligent civilization. It's detrimental to our philosophical health. Now, the church and God are separate. God's a comforting idea. I can't disprove it, so I'm not going to argue with you on whether or not you should believe in God. I'm going to make my own choice, you make yours, that's fine. But the church itself is not good. That's, to me, I can't see how you would debate that. It provides a business It takes something that people are vulnerable when they think about, which is God, something that makes people feel so belittled and insignificant that they bow down and they erase all that is them in order to worship this one being. You're going to take them at their most vulnerable and say, pay up. I want 10% of your income. How completely ludicrous is that? The Catholic Church, okay, let's take God's creations and then tell the people who will follow us no matter what we say that they're only allowed to hang out and like some of God's creations. That's not what God's about. The whole idea of God is the Platonic good. It's the highest form of being. You can't just say, oh, well, only people who believe in our God are good. Well, no, because if God created everyone, He knew, and He knows everything. He knows that there are going to be Jews and Muslims and Christians. How dare you even assume that God likes you more than someone else, based on an assumption that your great-great-great-great-grandfather made that the rest of your family is going to follow for all eternity? That is terrible. That is closed-minded, and that is ignorant. Can I just say this right now? People, please stop saying that America is a Christian nation, that we were founded on Christian morals. That's stupid. I'm sorry. There's no other way to put it. That is ridiculous and ignorant. The Founding Fathers were, in their majority, deists. They believed in God, but they were not Catholics, they were not Christians, they were not Puritans, they weren't any faction of religion other than deist. That means they believed in a God as a creator of the universe, but not the Christian principle of divine intervention, that God cared about humanity. Divine intervention is illogical in the as logical as God can be. Divine intervention makes no sense because divine intervention would not even be an option for a God, because a God is, like I said, the Platonic good. It is all that is perfect, and it is all that is love. It is all that is happiness, hate, vengeance. All of those things don't matter. All emotion to God is nothing because God rises above. If we're going to believe in God, we have to believe in God as perfect. I don't know a religious person who would say that God isn't perfect. And yet, contradicting themselves, I know several religious people who will say that God interferes. There are miracles. God interferes with the lives of men. No, because men, as I've heard from religious people, that God thinks and acts on a completely higher level, a completely different paradigm than what we think in, which is why we're not allowed to question the acts of God or the Word of God, right? Because God is so far above us that we just have to trust Him that He's got our best interests in heart. Even if we trust Him, even if we accept that, then we have to discredit what we would call miracles, because miracles are what? Divine intervention. God would not interfere with something that He was that high above. It makes no sense. God would then, because let's say there's a farmer who's about to die, right? He's about to be run over or something. He's pinned down to the train tracks. I don't care what disastrous scenario you want to put him in. Let's say he's tied down to the train tracks, there's a train coming, and then all of a sudden, his bonds snap free, and he gets up and he walks away and he's saved, and he thanks God. He gets down on his knees and he weeps. Well, no, he shouldn't thank God. He should thank bad rope, I mean, because if God were to save that man, most people, sure, would agree that it's a good thing for God to save that person. But maybe there's one person that, even if it's an illogical, badly founded reason, dislikes that guy, the guy who was saved. Well, now God's actions are questionable. Because did he really deserve to be saved? Was it really a good thing? If it's even debatable, if there's even the slightest little question as to whether or not God acted in the good intentions, it shows God stooping to our level. God has then soiled Himself. God has made Himself less, and therefore He is not God. God would not consciously choose to not be God, therefore divine intervention is illogical. I'm going to end this video there, and we can bust into politics next time, I guess.